The camera pans across the courtroom. Judge Judy, sharp and focused in her robes, peruses the documents before her. At the plaintiff's podium stands Arthur Henderson, a man in his late 60s with a weary but determined expression. At the defendant's podium is Brenda Scanlon, a woman in her mid-40s, arms crossed, radiating an air of profound impatience.
Judge Judy, Mr. Henderson, you rented an apartment to Mrs. Scanlon for 1 year, correct?
Arthur Henderson, yes, Your Honor, from August 1st, 2024 to July 31st of this year. Judge Judy, the lease was for $1,800 a month with a $1,800 security deposit. She paid her rent on time? Arthur Henderson, mostly. Sometimes a few days late, but she always paid. The problem was when she moved out. Judge Judy, you're suing her for $5,000, the maximum in this court. You claim the damages she left exceeded her security deposit. What kind of damages? Arthur Henderson, Your Honor, she left crayon and what looks like permanent marker all over the walls in the second bedroom. There were deep scratches on the hardwood floors, which we had just refinished before she moved in. And the smell. She was a heavy smoker against the clear terms of the lease, and the entire apartment had to be professionally ozone treated. I have photos and receipts for all the repairs. He hands a folder to Officer Bird, who delivers it to the judge. Judge Judy, flipping through the pictures. I see. Looks like a child went to town on these walls. Did she have children? Arthur Henderson. No, Your Honor. She told me the marker was from a party. Judge Judy looks up, her gaze hardening. A party with toddlers. All right, Mrs. Scanlon. Brenda Scanlon lets out an exaggerated sigh, as if the entire proceeding is an immense waste of her time. Brenda Scanlon. First of all, the apartment was not in pristine condition when I moved in. Those floors had scratches already, and the paint was cheap. It chipped if you looked at it wrong. Judge Judy, did you fill out a move-in inspection checklist noting these damages, ma'am? That's standard practice. Brenda Scanlon, he didn't give me one. He's very disorganized. Judge Judy taps the lease agreement on her desk. I'm looking at paragraph 7 of this lease, which you signed. It states that the tenant acknowledges the property is in good, clean, and habitable condition, unless a written list of damages is provided to the landlord within 48 hours of move-in. Did you provide such a list? Brenda Scanlon, I told him verbally. Judge Judy, you told him verbally. So your word against his. What about the crayon on the walls? Brenda Scanlon. That was my niece. She was visiting. It's washable crayon. A little soap and water, it comes right off. He's just trying to extort me to pay for a full paint job. Arthur Henderson. Your Honor, my painter tried everything. It had to be sealed with a special primer and then repainted. The receipt is in there. Judge Judy, looking at the receipt. I see it. $200 for the bedroom alone. Mrs. Scanlon, you're not just defending his suit, you're countersuing him for $3,000. For what? Brenda Scanlon. For my $1,800 security deposit that he stole, plus $1,200 for the emotional distress and harassment he's put me through with this frivolous lawsuit. Judge Judy. Harassment? Ma'am, he's suing you with photographic evidence of damage. That isn't harassment. That's the legal process. You think scribbling on walls is normal wear and tear? Brenda Scanlon. I think landlords like him are predators. They see a single woman and think they can just take her money. The smoking thing is also a lie. I don't smoke. Judge Judy picks up another photo. What's this? It looks like a cigarette burn on the kitchen countertop. Brenda Scanlon. That was there when I moved in. I told you the place was a dump. Judge Judy. Sir, did you take pictures of the apartment before she moved in? Arthur Henderson. Yes, Your Honor. Dated and time-stamped. I learned my lesson with a previous tenant. He hands a second, smaller stack of photos to Officer Bird. Judge Judy compares the before and after photos. A slow, knowing smile spreads across her face. Well, isn't this interesting? The before picture of the kitchen counter shows a smooth, unblemished surface. And the before picture of the second bedroom shows freshly painted, clean walls. She holds up the two contrasting photos for Brenda to see. Brenda's face flushes with anger, her confident smirk finally vanishing. Brenda Scanlon, those pictures could be from any apartment. They could be fake. Judge Judy. They could be, but they're not. They have digital metadata embedded in them, and they match the layout of the apartment in your pictures. You, ma'am, are a liar, Brenda Scanlon. This is ridiculous. You're taking his side just because he's an old man. Judge Judy. No, ma'am. I'm taking the side of the evidence. You lied about the floors, you lied about the walls, and you lied about the cigarette burns. And my guess is you lied about the smoking. The bill for deodorizing the apartment was $800. The bill for painting was $200. The floor refinishing cost $2,500. That's $4,500. He kept your $1,800 deposit, which means you still owe him $2,700. My judgment so far is for the plaintiff. Now we get to your countersuit, which is pure baloney. You cause the damage, you forfeit the deposit. And the idea that you're suffering from emotional distress is laughable. You seem to be the one causing it. Brenda is seething, her knuckles white as she grips the podium. Brenda Scanlon. You haven't listened to a word I've said. You've been rude and dismissive since I walked in here. Judge Judy. I'm rude to people who lie in my courtroom. I find it disrespectful. You came in here with a fantasy story, and it blew up in your face. A word of advice. Next time you want to trash someone's property, don't. It's a simple concept, something a person of your age should have grasped long ago. The time for temper tantrums with crayons is over. Brenda Scanlon. Snapping, her voice rising to a shrill peak. You know what? You can keep your advice. Why don't you mind your menopause? The courtroom falls utterly silent. An audible gasp comes from the audience. Officer Bird, who had been relaxed, stands up straighter, his eyes fixed on Brenda. Arthur Henderson looks shocked. Judge Judy doesn't move. She doesn't flinch. Her expression freezes into a mask of glacial calm. She slowly puts down her pen, folds her hands, and leans forward, her eyes locking onto Brenda's. The silence stretches for 5 long, terrifying seconds. Judge Judy. Her voice is quiet, low, and laced with steel. It cuts through the room more effectively than any shout. Let me tell you something, Ms. Scanlon. I've been doing this job for a very long time. I've been insulted by experts, by fools, by criminals, by people with nothing to lose. But you, in your breathtaking arrogance, have just set a new standard. You came into my courtroom, a place where people come for justice, and you lied from the second you opened your mouth. You presented fabricated stories as facts. You disrespected the plaintiff. You disrespected the process. And you disrespected me. That last comment, that was just a pathetic, desperate attempt to wound me because you were exposed as a fraud. But it does nothing, because I am here, in this chair, holding this gavel, and you are there, a person who doesn't pay her debts, who destroys other people's property, and who thinks that a cheap personal insult is a substitute for character. Your countersuit is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff, Mr. Henderson, in the amount of $2,700 for the damages plus court costs. And for your disgusting behavior, I wish I could fine you for contempt, but this is arbitration. So instead, you will just have to live with the public knowledge of who and what you are. We're done. Whack! The gavel comes down with a deafening crack. Brenda Scanlon stands frozen, her face a mixture of rage and humiliation. Bailiff Petrie Hawkins Bird. This way, ma'am. Brenda glares at Judge Judy one last time before turning and storming out of the courtroom. Mr. Henderson lets out a long, slow breath, visibly relieved. Bailiff Petrie Hawkins Bird's voiceover. Judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,700. Defendant Brenda Scanlon's countersuit was dismissed with prejudice. Despite her claims, the evidence proved she was clearly responsible for the damages, and her behavior in court only solidified the judge's decision.